Welcome everyone. We'll be starting in just a few minutes.
All right, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar. This is the Parenting Youth Speak, How We Are Experiencing COVID-19 and Ways to Support Us. This is part 3 of the LA Rep Summer Learning Series called Courageous Conversations, Perspectives, Lived Experiences, and Advice about Supporting Youth's Health and Relationship Needs in the Time of Coronavirus. Very excited. We have an incredible panel for this webinar, and yeah, let's jump in. So a few community keeping things. So you have all been muted, but if you need to ask a question during the webinar, there is a Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. Type your question, hit send. Again, you can also use this function if there are any technical difficulties and someone will respond. And then we also have a few minutes at the end for any questions. So feel free to send questions in the chat along the way, and we will be answering those at the end of the webinar. So we have some really cool presenters on board with us today. That includes Diamond Echevarria, Cindy Evans, Lexis Epps, who actually, unfortunately, Lexis Epps will not be joining us, but we have incorporated some of the things that we've had conversations with her, and we've incorporated some of the things she said into some of our takeaways that we will be talking about. We also have Mara Ziegler and Barbara Fasher, Carla Estrada, and Janelle Reyes, who will be actually facilitating our panel. So this webinar is hosted by the Los Angeles Reproductive Health Equity Project for Foster Youth. Essentially, our main goal is bringing together foster youth and the agencies that serve them to promote evidence-informed strategies that reduce unplanned pregnancies and dismantle systemic barriers to sexual and reproductive health education and services. We engage in coalition work. We are a collective impact campaign committed to ending inequitable reproductive health outcomes for youth in foster care. And a little before we move on, we did want to cite some data for context for our work and this webinar in particular. This data has been cited in our previous webinars, but we think it's so important, which is why we keep bringing it up. So by age 19, almost half of females in foster care have been pregnant at least once. Which is actually more than 2.5 times the rate of females of the same age in the general population. So there's a disproportionality. There's a disproportionately high pregnancy rate, but actually what studies have found is that 2/3 of these young women in foster care did not describe their recent pregnancy as intentional or wanted. So there's this gap between, intentionality and what's actually happening. So, something is going on between a young person's intention and their ability to make that intention real. And again, there's a ton more data on the inequitable reproductive, and sexual health outcomes, but we want to give the panel as much time to speak as possible, so we're not going to review them. But if you want more information about the data or other resources, you can check out our website, which we will link at the bottom. I did want to touch base though before we move on about this data point on intention, because it really helps highlight that youth in care face an incredible amount of barriers. One of the additional barriers that young people in foster care face relates to their identity. So, when we think about inequitable health outcomes, we also have to consider, race and ethnicity, sexual orientation, gender identity, just to name a few. So for example, and I have cited this example in our previous webinars, but because it really hones in on the disproportionality, for certain groups of people. So, African Americans are highly disproportionately overrepresented in the foster care system, and about 1 in 5 young people in care identify as LGBTQ+. And again, we've also said this, but we want to reiterate, structural and systemic racism plays a clear role in healthcare access. So it's important as caregivers or advocates for these young people to think about this when you are providing support or assistance to young people in the foster care system. Excuse me. And particularly for young parents who have lived experience in the system. Excuse me, I have a little dry throat. So lack of training for reproductive and sexual health was actually really common until about 5 years ago. In 2015, there's absolutely no law, policy, or training available at the state level to do, 2 things. And one, that includes making clear the rights of youth in foster care to access needed care, or clearly defining what the role that child welfare plays in supporting these young people's healthy sexual development. And that also means helping a young person who has a child, helping them get support and resources for their child. This absence of policy created tons of issues and barriers to care and education for young people, which one of the areas that it really did affect was unplanned pregnancies, because young people did not have enough information to make informed and empowered decisions about their choice to start a family or not. The good news is that since 2015, we have seen a lot of action at the state level, and that has had a positive, that has had positive effects on the reproductive and sexual health outcomes of youth. So now we have guidance that clearly articulates the rights of young people. It clearly articulates the obligations of caseworkers and caregivers as it relates to supporting young people's healthy sexual development. And some of the resources that we provide at the end of the webinar have information on what exactly are those obligations for caregivers and social workers and what youth rights are as well. So you can reference that. And again, we will link all of that at the very end of the webinar, as well as in the follow-up email. And now with the pandemic and shelter in place, our daily lives have shifted, whether we wanted them to or not. We've all had to make a lot of adjustments, and some of the feedback we've gotten from young people, particularly those who are parents, is that they are dealing with a lot of stressors and barriers that are making it harder for them to support and care for their children and themselves. These stressors are not only affecting their health either. The stressors brought on by the pandemic are affecting education, housing, mental health, and immigration. And then all of those are also affecting each other. So now we are going to hear from our amazing panel. We have Janelle Reyes, who is an LA Rep Youth Advisory Board member, who is an LA Rep Youth Advisory Board member who will be facilitating. Janelle, I'm going to pass it on to you.
Hi, my name is Janelle Reyes. I am a graduate student at Pepperdine University. I have been on the youth panel for some time now, and I really enjoy it. So yeah, Cindy, you would like to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you, Janelle. So hi, my name is Cindy Evans. I'm part of the LA Rep Advisory Board. My pronouns are she, hers, and hers. I'm also a mother of 2. I'm also a college graduate with a sociology degree. And yeah, I'll pass it on to you, Carla.
And I have a set of plans that I'm currently attending college for my associate's degree.
Thank you, Carla. Carla's on the line. So if you hear, you're going to be hearing her through my camera and voice. Thank you. Diamond, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Diamond, Diamond Echeverria. I am a mom to one. I have my daughter, Leonila. I'm currently not in school right now due to COVID, and I am a non-minor dependent. I receive AB 12. I'm on AB 12 at the moment. Thank you.
So yeah, thank you all for that introduction. So we're going to be moving on to the questions that will be asked. So the first question goes to Cindy. Can you tell us how COVID-19 has impacted your employment, income, and education?
Well, there's actually different factors how COVID has been affecting me. The first part, it is what I'm gonna mention is about school. My financial aid has been halted or freeze due to some lack of documentation that they need. And since it's so hard to get a hold of them and communicate, and the phone lines have been just nothing but an answering machine instead of talking to someone one-on-one, has been very stressful. Also, I just received my AA degree in sociology last year, and I was in a verge to transfer, but then that's another issue as well. This whole COVID happened, and I had to put everything on hold, and that had to affect I had to either take fall classes or not online, because my kids are also not going to school. And since they're not going to school, they're also going to take online classes. And I'm not too sure if I'm going to be able to handle it, or it'll be okay, because I have two kids. They're both young. They're going to start school. And we got to get used to doing the whole Zoom meeting as well, doing class dojo. And I feel like it's going to be a lot for me to bury. And for job, well, I was in a verge of getting a job. I was getting a background check, but unfortunately, the COVID happened and they went on a total shutdown, and I was never able to find out if I was ever approved of my fingerprints or not, because a lot of time has passed, and of course the job moved forward. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to get the job. And it's also making it hard for me, because now since kids are staying home and there is no school, there's also lack of childcare and lack of daycare. And I kind of really dependent on that. And due to that, I had to really think about what type of job will work with my schedule. So from the looks of it, I may have to start working graveyard, because, I can't find no one to watch my kids. I actually was relying on daycare and the school for them while I went and worked and stuff and going to school. And now because of all this, it's been really stressful, and income has been very low. I was already low income, and just by this just made it a little bit more harder now. So yeah, I still try to see the bright side of everything. Even though the COVID happened, I've been spending more time with my kids, which I'm enjoying it. But yeah, it's just been a lot of downfall, and hopefully everything gets better soon. So thank you, Janelle.
Thank you for that, Cindy. Thank you. Diamond, I'm gonna ask you this question. So what has your experience been like during COVID-19 and being a young mom?
So far, one of the main things that I've encountered being a mom is having to cancel baby appointments, because I would call the clinic to make sure to ask them if they'd had any COVID cases, and they had. So I was just like, well, I would like to cancel my appointment because I don't want to bring my baby in. And they were really okay with that, and they said that they'll just put me on a list to try and reschedule the appointment maybe sometime this month or next month. But my baby is healthy, so it's not really anything that is stressing me out. As far as with work, I had applied to Starbucks, and I got the interview, and the interview went well, and then their hiring processes got frozen so due to the pandemic, so I wasn't able to get a Starbucks job as a barista. That was kind of sad because it was something I was looking forward to doing. I was in school earlier, I mentioned, until COVID. Once the classes got transferred to online, I couldn't keep up with my work, having to take care of the baby and run around with her because she's 15 months old. She's running on everything, bouncing on everything, climbing everything, and getting into everything. So I couldn't keep up with my work, so I got dropped from the class. And I want to go back to school. I want to do more school once it's face to face, because I need that little bit of time away to be able to focus on me. And then for housing, I was on a housing voucher, and it was supposed to expire in March, but due to COVID, I asked them if I could get an extension, and even with the extension, it was impossible to find any kind of housing because the apartments themselves were some of the leasing offices were some of them were closed, some of them were just impossible to get into, and even though I would I would call them and they'd be like, yeah, you could just walk in through this gate, and then I'd get there and then there's nobody there during office times, and it was impossible to get a hold of anybody. I stopped getting called. I stopped. I would be on a roll getting a hold of different apartment places, and they'd be talking to me, and then suddenly I couldn't even get a hold of a real person. And it kept just anytime I called any kind of apartments, it would just take me to a automated voice message, and I was like, I was just talking to a real person. Why can't you just take me to a real person? That was a really frustrating situation. I was unable to get an apartment on the voucher, and my voucher expired a week ago, so that was frustrating. Fortunately, though, once the pandemic hit and everything got shut down, I had just did my taxes, and then the stimulus check ended up coming in, and so for me, I haven't had a lot of income issues because I only get $1,900 a month with AB 12, and that's what I've been dealing with. So I was able to get a little bit of boost from taxes and the stimulus check. So I've been able to take care of me and the baby, get all the baby her diapers and wipes and all that stuff. But yeah, there's been a lot. There's been a lot of stress that comes to it, but I've been okay. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Diamond. So as I mentioned, Carla is on the phone, so I have her on the line with me. And this question is going to be for Carla. So Carla, how has COVID impacted your path to citizenship and career?
So COVID has affected me in a big way. It has affected me by getting my citizenship. The reason I can't get my citizenship is because I think it has to be after 5 years. So I guess in November I will be able to apply. And then I also need surgery in order to join the Sheriff's Academy. And with COVID, everything's closed, so I'm not able to do that.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for that. The next question is for Cindy. So how has COVID-19 impacted your mental and emotional wellness?
Well, at first, I didn't really know what to expect. I thought it was like the whole end of the world thing, or I don't know. Everybody was pretty much like saying so many different things, and it was pretty emotional. Had to go find like, you know, stuff to stock up. Oh, and toilet paper was the issue, and it was just ridiculous at first, and then later on I was able to get over the fear and just, you know, accept what's going on and just stay home. And I was able, and at first I enjoyed it because I was spending more time with my kids. Something that I kind of not really regret, but I always kept in mind. I will always work and go to school, and I always was concerned about my kids. Who's gonna watch them? Who's gonna take care of them? Are they even raising them right, or teaching them the right things, or even feeding them? Those were my concerns, and it felt good knowing that I was able to spend time with my kids. And they're little right now. I have a 6-year-old boy, and I have a 4-year-old daughter, and to them, like, I felt like I was able to make it more into a family thing, bond with them, do more one-on-one with my son, able to find out what he's into. I found out that he wants to play soccer, so that's something that I like, because I want my son to be able to talk to me and tell me what he's into, and hopefully I'm able to support him and stuff. But then also, after that time, I didn't realize how long this whole pandemic was gonna last. That, like, now I'm kind of stressing out, worry about jobs, because I didn't get my stimulus check. I'm still waiting. It was so hard trying to get a contact with the IRS, get a hold with somebody after months. I finally got a hold of somebody maybe like 2 weeks ago. They said they're gonna mail it out in 2 weeks. I'm still waiting on it, because I really do depend on it. And it's just been stressful, because I do have 2 kids who are growing up, and they're growing out of clothes, they're growing out of shoes, they're eating a lot more. They're they're more like, they want more materialistic stuff that they're into now, instead of like when they're little you could just give them a candy and a cookie. Like, now they're more materialistic, and with the iPads and then the cell phones and stuff. So it's just been a little bit stressful over that, I would say. But hopefully I get this stimulus check that will help out, and hopefully this pandemic will end, or I'll find a little graveyard job. I'm just trying to look. It's just really hard because of everything being closed early. Is I'm really limited, and it kind of sucks, but I'm trying to see the best of it.
Thank you for that, Cindy. The next question is for Diamond. So the question is, how are you coping mentally and emotionally?
For me, I it has been stressful because I hadn't been able to find a place due to the COVID. And I was really, once I got dropped from my class, the one class that I was taking at Sac City, I it kind of put me in a very, very sad time. I felt like I was letting everybody down. I had, like, everybody has these expectations of me as a mom to get my stuff done and to get a degree, but I wasn't able to do one online class. So kind of, I felt like I could do better, and that's what I've been trying. That's what I've been doing. But the way that how I cope with it is I have been able to recently ask my family for help, because I actually live in a very supportive home with my boyfriend and his family and the baby. So I'll ask them for help to, like, just watch the baby for an hour while I just relax in the bathroom, take a bath, take a shower, do my hair, maybe do my makeup, to just feel good. Is It's nice to just make yourself feel good. Another way that I deal with this stress is, I every month, once I get the AB-12 check, I at least treat myself to one one expensive, not really, doesn't even have to be expensive, but a treat, whether that be go out to not go out to eat right now, but but I will DoorDash something special like Joe's Crab Shack. Recently I even bought myself a gaming computer, and that has been a lot of fun and a very great stress reliever because it's I just get to escape for a little bit. And also with the baby, she's fun. She's fun because she is learning, and now she's actually trying to speak. Like she's trying to get the letters down. Like we'll put on educational videos, we'll sing ABCs with her, and she likes to dance. We watch Sesame Street, which that has been a blast watching with her. Honestly, she gets so excited anytime she sees Elmo or she hears the music. She dances to everything, and it's so much fun. But I've been able to deal with my stress. I'm pretty sure I was at a worse time before, and I have been able to work on myself, which is nice.
Thank you for that, Diamond. So the next question is for Carla. Just as a reminder, she's on the line with me, so you'll hear her response through my voice. But how has that affected your ability to take care for your child? What about emotional and mental health?
So my emotional and mental health, I've been actually depressed because I feel like I can't give my child a better life because I don't have a career. And also my citizenship has a lot to do with it, but I do plan on going back to school so that I can give them a better life. And it also has affected my housing. I've been trying to live on my own in an apartment with my boyfriend and with my son. But with the whole housing and with COVID, it's really hard to even contact anybody because they don't answer. But that's how it has impacted me emotionally. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that, Carla. And I know you have to go, so thank you for everything. So the next questions are basically open to anyone who wants to answer. So the first question would be, did you get any program like nurse, family, partnership, or other case management services? What was your experience like with them?
On it right now, nurse family partnership, and it's actually been really good. I've had it for like almost 2 years, and they do help me a lot with my son and things that he does.
Thank you for that.
I
Anybody else?
actually want to answer. I actually have been part of the nursing and partnership, and I would say that they were actually the best support team I could ever have during my pregnancy. It was very stressful being a new mom and not really having no one to support. I wasn't really in touch with my mom as very well. So I was mostly with the father side of the family for a period of time, and they were okay, but you know, I was still new in the family, so you know, there's some things I wasn't able to open up to them and talk to them about. So it was good to know that I had this lady, her name was Valerie. She was actually a nurse from the partnership, and she was awesome. She will come over, like we'll schedule time, she'll come over. I won't even have to go see her. She'll come to my house, visit me. She'll give me these plans of, okay, what to expect when you're expecting, pretty much. And it tells you from your first trimester, your second trimester, your third trimester. It tells you what's going on around your body, how you feeling, what to expect when you're gonna go into the delivery room. What are 2 different types of delivery you could have, and like how to be aware of your baby's kicks when they're kicking in your belly and stuff like that. And that was very important. And I felt like because of her, she really educated me a lot in pregnancy, and also my emotional status, she was very supportive, and I was able to talk to her as well and open up to her, and she was very professional, very helpful. So I would say any new mother or young mother, I would support them to be part of this program because they are a very, very great program.
Thank you for that, Cindy. Thank you. So the next question, again, it goes for anyone who wants to respond. The next question is, how do you conceptualize self-care, and has it been helpful for you during this pandemic?
Well, I'm single, so since I'm single, it's been pretty lonely. But I'm able to cope with self-love and how to love myself and how to appreciate myself more, and find out what's my next step, because it's not about me no more. Now, since I have 2 kids, it's about them. And it's about who am I going to bring into the family, or what is my next step in the relationship, because I'm going to bring them around my kids, and I want to make sure that I won't do the same mistake again with my previous relationship. And I think self-love is something very important, and it's something normal. And I wish I would have learned this since I was younger. But hey, I'm learning it now. It's never too late. And it's very important to know how much you're worth. And it's normal to have any type of self-love or any coping thing that you do for yourself, because other people don't know what's going on except yourself. So thank you.
I definitely agree. Self-care is very important. So yeah, the next question, again, anybody can jump in and answer. Have you encountered obstacles in accessing reproductive health care, such as contraception, during this pandemic? I guess I can elaborate a little bit. I made the decision to get my tubes tied a few years ago, but this is one of the things that have come up for me in terms of just realizing how difficult it would be at this time. So I definitely can't even imagine what, the circumstances that we're in now, how that would make it difficult to access contraception, condoms, or anything like that, or even just guidance in regards to our reproductive rights and any of that sort. So yeah, so we're gonna jump on to the next question. What assistance do young parents in or with lived experience in the foster care system need right now?
I would say maybe a mentor. I think that will be very important. When I was in the foster care system, I was the oldest one from like 6 other kids. So I will always end up watching them and take care of them. But I never really had someone around my age who I could relate to or talk to, or at least someone who could be like, you're doing a great job, or, just everything will get better. At least having someone there really would help, and to know that they're not alone. So I would say maybe a mentor will be good for them, and for the social workers out there to also communicate and talk to your kids is very important. They're not just any case file. They know what they feel, and they go through things, and it's very important to hear them out and understand and tell them what is your part in trying to help them, and what do you want from them as well as they want from you. Oh, thank you.
Thank you for that. Oh, okay, go ahead, Diamond, go ahead.
I was gonna say I could connect with Cindy. I actually have a CASA worker that I've had since I was 15 years old, and now I'm 20, and she's still my CASA worker. And a mentor or a CASA worker or anything, I think, would be great for everybody, because my CASA worker, we don't see each other often now. We do see each other like every few weeks. we'd go out and have something to eat. But now it's come to she'll text. Well, we now just text like every few weeks, and she usually will ask me like, "Hey, is there anything you need from me? Do you need any help with anything?" And it's always, and it is really nice to have that person. And like she said about the social workers, definitely just communicate. Communicate. What I like to ask social workers is, could you give me a lead on something, like, or like when I was looking for a job, or when I'm looking for a job, whenever I was trying to find housing, they would be asking me like, oh, well, what do you need to be able to find a place? I'm like, if you see anything, could you shoot me a text and let me know to look into this place? Like, just something, just small things like that would be great, I think.
Thank you for that, Diamond. So the next question is, what about extended foster care? Do you think it will be helpful to extend foster care even more? Would doing this worry you in any way?
I think it should be extended just a little bit longer. So I do actually have a friend who's a year older than me that aged out of the the extended foster care program, and he was just like, he's like, I didn't he was not prepared. And he ended up just not knowing what to do. But they ended up somebody sent him an email saying that they were thinking about extending extended foster care, but he was unable to follow up because they stopped responding. I don't really know what happened.
Cindy, what do you think about this question?
Well, since I'm older, I would say from my experience, I think it will be a great idea. I think it's a great idea to extend the foster care because honestly, by the time we turn 18, that's when basically they do kick us out of the foster care center. Well, not kick us out, but correct term, we graduate. So they basically hold off of any services, any resources. When I was 18, they just told me, okay, you're not part of the system. You're not a foster child no more. So there you go. They didn't ask me what's my plan. They didn't ask me what's next. I didn't even know about resources, but gratefully, when I ended up going to community college, I was able to talk to a counselor and I told her my situation. And I'm glad that a lot of colleges have a lot of support system for former foster youth who were in the system. And they had a lot of resources, and I'm just hearing it right now. But unfortunately, since I'm a little bit older, I aged out in a lot of these resources. And I never even knew I could have benefited from so many of these help. But unfortunately, I didn't. But I was able to get some services for a couple years. But it would have been a great help if I actually knew what was the help I needed since I was younger. Maybe it would have been different, my outcome right now. But since it's not that, I'm highly supportive of this whole extending foster care for my former foster brothers and sisters, because I understand we don't know what we want. I'm about to be 30 soon. I'm 27, and I'm still trying to figure things out. So if I was 18, fresh out of high school, and right now I'm 27 with 2 kids, I still don't know. It's just, I don't think there's really an age limit for us to know what part of life should we even be, or will be okay. So thank you.
I could definitely agree with you, Cindy. It definitely is a challenge. I myself am a little older as well, and I unfortunately didn't know anything coming out of the system, and I wish I would have received some of the services as well, and just the knowledge of it definitely could have helped. So yeah, on to the next question. What about the dads or other partners? How have they played a role in supporting your child? Do you think there's enough assistance provided to fathers, or should there be more? What do you think that assistance would look like?
I'll answer this one first. Unfortunately, I'm a single mother. The father of my kids, he's not in the picture right now at this moment. There's some personal issues going on right now that I'm making sure he takes care of his mental health first before I allow him to be around the kids, due to some personal issues we have before. But I definitely do think that for fathers, there should be a type of program or a resource for them to help them become a father, like, or how to know how to be a best role model for your kids, or how to, because I think for us women, we bury so much because we carry child, we deliver the child, we raise the child, we feed the child, we do everything. And everybody expects the mother to hold it down. Of course, a mother love is nothing compared to a father, but I think a child should have a father and a mother in the same page for them to be able to raise the child correctly. And for us mothers, I feel like we mature faster, because I know as soon as I became pregnant with my son, I just changed into mommy mode. I was like, okay, I'm about to be a mother. No more, fooling around, no more about me, no more about like my needs. It's more about my child needs and what they need. And I feel like for fathers, since they don't have that connection because they're not carrying something inside them, is the attachment is not there. And I feel like it's easier for fathers to not be part of the child's life because they don't have that type of attachment for the kid compared to us mother. And I feel like fathers should have resources of how to become better dads, or how to be part of their kids' life, like I said. Because a lot of fathers, I know I'm not the single mother in the world. I know there's plenty of there's other people who have different situations. But I think like they should be able to, own up to it. It shouldn't just be a woman who has to carry the weight of raising kids. It should be a team thing. So it takes two to make one. So
Thank you for that, Cindy. Diamond, do you want to share anything in regards to that?
No, thank you.
All right, on to the next question. What resources had the biggest positive impact on your life while you were in foster care?
for me, I wasn't really in any programs when I was in a foster care, but I would say after I left the program, when I went off to college, I would say the Link program and also the Next Up program from ELAC. I think those programs are really good for former foster youth, and I highly recommend that they continue to keep doing a good job for us.
For me, I would say, what is it? ILP. ILP. The ILP classes, the Independent Living Skills program, was honestly, it was great. A great place for me to meet new people, make connections, and very learn the stuff that school doesn't teach you, like budgeting was one. Finding a place was the class. Getting CPR and first aid certified was a class. Learning how to love yourself was a class. And the ILP classes, I would say, has had probably the biggest impact, because that's where I met Sherry Schroeder, one of the most amazing women in my life. Independent Living Skills program, I would recommend it for everybody. My little sister is getting into it. My little brother he's something else. I guess he doesn't really want to go out to the classes, or they right now they have just online. I haven't been able to do the online ILP classes, although I would like to. I might be doing that soon because they have a lot of fun. Right now, this month they're gonna actually be having driver's ed class for one of the classes, and something I kind of need to do, so I might do that.
Thank you for that, Diamond. I would say from my experience, I would say the AB 12, financially, I don't know how I would have done it without that resource. And I would also say kind of like Cindy's experience, the programs at the colleges that I went to, those were definitely immensely helpful. I didn't have a clue what I was doing, and just having that resource there was definitely a great help. So on to the next question. Have you felt isolated due to the pandemic?
Yes, I do. It's been really, I honestly just stay home a lot with my kids. I started babysitting this one of my friend's kids as well, because since she can't find a babysitter and there's no school right now, I'm trying to help her out as well. And she helps me out too by giving me a little bit of money so I could watch her son. But yeah, I just been mostly at home. There's actually nothing to do, and I feel bad for my kids. I'm just worried that my kids will be too attached into TVs and, you know, their electronics or the iPad. But I try to take them out to go play in the yard, but it's still not the same as for them to go play with other little kids, because my kids like to play with other kids and they like to run around and play hide and go seek. And when it's just me, my other daughter and my son, well, it's kind of hard for that. But we try to make the best of it. I only go to the grocery store just to go do some quick errands or whatever I need. But I don't really be going out as much because of this whole pandemic. And well, it's kind of frightening since the statics keep going up and stuff. So yeah.
Thank you for that, Cindy. Diamond, would you like to share anything in regards to that?
I can't say that I feel isolated since I live with my baby, my boyfriend, his mom, his grandpa, his brother, his sister. And if anything, I feel like I need a little bit I need a little bit of space. But honestly, it has been nice to not have to go to work, not have to work, and to actually spend time with my baby, because that was when I was working. When I was working, I felt like I was not going to be there for her ever, and now I'm here for her all the time, and now she's mega attached to me. I can't sometimes I can't even leave a room without her freaking out. But that's I don't feel isolated. I'm actually very surrounded all the time.
Thank you for that, Diamond. I would speak on my experience in regards to that. It definitely does feel a little bit disconnected from the world. I also have 2 kids myself. So it's definitely been a rough time kind of keeping them away from, you know, the outside and all that. So I definitely can relate to both of your guys' story. But yeah, that was the last question. Thank you all for listening. I'll pass it back to Felicia. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Janelle, and thank you to all the panelists. All of the things you said are so important. I did want to highlight really quick something that Cindy and Janelle, you also mentioned, and it was like when you were graduating from foster care at 18, and you know there weren't a lot of resources for you, or you didn't know about them. And actually, in the parenting listening sessions that we had, you know, this summer, some of the stuff that some of the young women were saying was, this year especially has been really hard because one, you know, there are, you know, a certain amount of programs, and maybe they're a little bit more than when you guys were in care, but programs have been halted. And so young people are feeling stressed and nervous and feeling like it's unfair because they're not getting access to resources and services as they're graduating from the program. And so it's really important that we extend some of these programs, for young people as they're exiting, and provide even more support, as they're exiting the system. So I did want to put that out there, and thank you all for sharing all of your experiences, the good and, the bad, because the pandemic is definitely bringing both. So we're going to go over some really quick takeaways. We had the pleasure of having, conversations with our panelists and other people who have given us, really important information on how they're coping, as well as ways to support them. So I just wanted to go over a few of these takeaways before we move on to Mara and Barbara. So this is really important because young people are not dealing with their issues in silos. It's important that when you are providing services or programs that you think about all the areas in which a young person could be struggling. And this is especially true for parents, as you saw during the panel, because they are thinking about and caring for another person. So these issue areas like housing instability, lack of access to education or employment, can be significantly detrimental for young parents. What's also important is that all of these issue areas can affect one another. So for example, if you don't have childcare, because the programs are closed, or, because of the pandemic, then it might be really hard to work from home or attend classes online, which is something that Cindy mentioned. And, youth in care generally have less of a network to help with something like childcare. It's great when you do, but a lot of times, young people who are coming from the system don't have a huge, extended family to do this. And this is a cycle, right? So if you can't work from home, that could cause housing instability, and your health, mental or reproductive, could be put on the back burner and could get worse. We did also want to show, so we had a lot of conversations again during our parenting listening sessions, and we asked what kind of assistance is needed most right now, and these are the 3 most cited ones. So financial, getting a monetary supplementation to pay for rent, bills, baby necessities, that, what Diamond said about the stimulus check, like that really helped her, but that was a one-time thing. Are we getting another stimulus check? I don't know. And, it not even just to pay rent or bills or baby necessities, but also to create a safety net, because when you're barely making the rent and the bills, and you have nothing left over at the end, that can be a very stressful place to be in. Childcare, again, this has been a huge issue because without childcare centers or programs, young people are at home with their children, and many don't have a lot of extended family who can help take care of the children when they need to go to school or work. And then housing, some people are staying in not so great housing situations because they don't have another choice. I remember, some of the people during the parenting listening session were saying like, I was trying to get out of my housing situation, but then the pandemic hit and all the programs halted and my employment didn't go through. So I had to stay, and others are worried about not having housing at all. And then there's, many people also talked about mental health, feeling sad or depressed, or lonely or stressed during this time. And those feelings get exacerbated when you are thinking about another human being. The other thing that they said about mental health is that when they have tried to access mental health, they are dealing with a lot of different like phone transfers. And they told us that it's very unclear and very hard to get a hold of a therapist. And it's just like all around very confusing. So we should try, people who are advocates and supporters in this field, we should try to make it more clear and streamlined so that young people can get access to a therapist quickly and efficiently. Oftentimes the partners or fathers are left out of the services and programs that are offered. And we know that it's extremely important, to provide services and support for these people as well, because that will contribute to the overall well-being of the child and, to the parents. So if a service or program does not already involve the partner or father, it's important that you do that. And then lastly, we just wanted to say that when supporting parenting youth, we need to make sure that they have access to programs or services that provide help with parenting babies if they want it. because young people in the system are coming from all kinds of backgrounds and experiences and may not know how to care for a baby. You know, for example, this quote is, "I stopped being parented at the age of 8. I didn't know how to parent, so this program where they sent a nurse to teach me how to care for my firstborn was invaluable." All right, now we will have Amara Ziegler and Barbara Fasher speak with us about some supportive programs and a framework that can be used to better support parenting youth.
Thank you, Felicia, and thank you so much, panelists. I never stop learning, and I am privileged to work most of my days with young people in care who are expecting, parenting, or like some of you have left the system, but still really would like some of these supports. And along with Barbara and the other people who do this work with me, we want to make it clear that our work is about ensuring that expectant and parenting youth have what they need to reach their goals as parents and as individuals. And we heard that a lot in your what you shared. And as the slide says, and as you all demonstrated, we know that expectant and parenting youth, which we have shortened into this term EPI or EPY. So EPI and foster care can have a positive birth experience. They can do really well as parents. It was inspiring to hear all of you talk about centering your children and putting them first in the choices you make. And we can even help you resolve some of these barriers we've heard to achieving your own independence and reaching your own life goals. And I'm going to turn it over to my colleague and friend Barbara, who's going to talk about one great program here in Los Angeles that we have to do this, and where the things we mentioned are local to LA, we'll point that out, but things like this can be available statewide.
Good afternoon, and I want to echo what Mara said about thanking you guys for sharing your experiences. And I don't know about you, but things like this are part of my self-care, to be talking with other people who are, you know, getting through this and supporting each other. So as Mara said, I work with the Alliance for Children's Rights, by the way, which is a nonprofit legal organization providing services to current and former foster youth. And I work primarily with expectant and parenting youth, as well as on healthcare issues for current and former foster youth. And I'm going to be talking in some detail about what we call the Expectant and Parenting Youth Conferences, EPI conferences, which are available to any expectant or parenting youth, inclusive of dads. I'll be referring to she. Most of our conferences are with the moms, but we certainly serve expect dads who are parents or are going to become a parent in foster care. And it's a conference that the idea of it is pretty basic. It's to say, it doesn't make sense to not do any planning before you have a child. Things are going to change in your life no matter what situation you're in. And the conferences are designed to really proactively address all the issues that a young person in foster care will be facing as they become a parent, or if they're already parenting. And as Mara said, we truly believe that young parents in foster care can be successful, and that these conferences can help stop any kind of intergenerational cycle and really prevent the babies of youth in care from ever themselves entering foster care. So the conferences are voluntary, which is important. A youth can say thanks, but no thanks, although that doesn't happen very often. And it's designed to proactively look at all the issues. So it brings together the youth, the expectant or parenting youth, and anybody in her village. The youth are encouraged to invite anybody that they see as part of their support team. And it really helps identify those needs and the gaps. And again, as Mara said, this is for LA County, but we really are encouraging people in other counties to adopt some version of this model. And the key is to really try and help youth identify what they need to be a successful parent, and also to continue on their own path to independence.
And Felicia, if you could move us ahead in the slides, please. There you go.
Yeah.
One more.
So this is a list, and there might be people who are left off this list, of people who have participated in the conferences and do. It always includes the youth social worker and a facilitator who is a supervising social worker from DCFS. And this is one of two people we've been working as a collaborative team for many, many years. We've been doing these conferences for over 10 years. It also, a key member of the team is what's called a resource specialist. Mara and I are both resource specialists, along with some other people from our agencies. And this is someone who keeps up to date. We try our best to keep up to date on all the services available to any pregnant young person, as well as keeping up to date on the rights and resources available to youth in foster care, related both to their role as parents, but also to their own journey to independence. So you can see some of the people involved. And again, the family support system, the youth is really encouraged to invite whomever she or he sees as crucial, including, when appropriate, the baby's other parent, a family member, a mentor, a CASA, whomever. The people from DCFS in the community who are sometimes involved might be the ILP coordinator, somebody, if there's a wraparound team involved, somebody from DMH. But again, I want to stress that not only are these conferences voluntary, but other than the team, the youth social worker and the facilitator and the resource specialist, a youth can say, no, I really don't want that person involved in this conference. It's really a youth-centered, in every sense of the word, conference, in terms of who's there and in terms of what issues are addressed. Next slide. So the conferences are both very organized as well as open. We always begin by asking the youth what she or he would like to discuss. And then we go through a list of issues that we always raise. And again, some of these issues the youth says, I don't really want to talk about that, and that's fine. But we always talk, if they're pregnant, about prenatal care, making sure they're getting it, if not, helping to link them. We connect them to doulas who provide services at no cost. We talk about their placement. Is it going to need to change when they have the baby, either because they want it to change or because they're not able to stay there? Education, mental health, childcare. Mara's going to go into some of these resources in depth and one of them was already mentioned, and I was so happy to hear the Nurse Family Partnership Program being praised. That's one of our key go-to resources. If the youth has legal issues with their PUP benefits, as you can see, I hope this kind of emphasizes that the conferences are both focused on what do I need as a parent. Prenatal care, we talk about, do you have a crib? Do you have clothes for the baby, etc. But also the issues, education, legal issues that really can impact a youth's ability to successfully transition to independence. So we like to think of these conferences as very holistic in that sense, because we know that being able to parent successfully has to do with your parenting skills, but also your ability to have access to the services and resources that young parents are entitled to. Mara, you're on. We can't hear you.
Thank you. Before I dive into talking about the home visitation programs, I just want to say I'm wishing this is giving some sense of hope to those of you who aged out and emphasize how you just didn't know what was available or how to get it when you were in care. because now in LA, and hopefully we're moving this statewide, that should not be the experience of a young person who's expecting or parenting. And now you know people to reach out to if you hear that is their experience. We will do what we can. And I also neglected to tell you, I work at an organization called Public Counsel, another public interest law office, and I am a social worker on the transition age youth team, focusing my time, as I said, on working with expecting and parenting youth. So I was so happy, as Barbara mentioned, to hear so many of you talk about your nurse-family partnership being a key resource you did receive. And for those who are listening who aren't familiar, I want to just back up a minute and talk about what are home visitation programs and why are they often so helpful. So these are, again, voluntary programs that are family-centered, and there are trained professionals who deliver services in the home or during COVID times through the screen virtually to pregnant women and women with young children. And they address all of these things on this list, some of the things that you heard our panelists speak about and more. And some of these things folks don't even know when they are become pregnant or expecting a baby, that these are things to address. Oh, I have to think about what I eat. I have to think about what's this going to be like when I deliver. Should I breastfeed? Do I want to breastfeed? How do I do that? I love that bonding was brought up, and we'll talk about bonding also with fathers, as we mentioned. A huge part of this is understanding child development. One of our first clients we referred to home visitation mentioned that the most useful thing was when her nurse got on her hands and knees and looked around her house and said, the baby can stick their finger in that plug, and we need to lock this cabinet. So they literally will do all of these things on the list and more. So Los Angeles has taken a lot of steps forward to not only make sure these programs are available, but as you heard, easy access is as important as knowing these programs exist. So homevisitingla.org is a wonderful website that the Early Parenting Consortium in Los Angeles put together. And it's got a decision tree. You can look at, are you expecting, are you parenting? How old are your children, etc. I do want to say a recurring theme for today is that in times of COVID, it might not be as easy as normally to get a hold of one of the places listed in this website. And you are welcome to reach out to me and Barbara if you're hitting any kind of brick walls on that. And it has been shown that moms, and of course if dads participate too, but the focus has been on the expecting or parenting mother who participate in these programs have a healthier pregnancy, a smoother delivery, and that they are more likely to reach their life goals with career, education, and what's really wonderful is their children benefit. The children of parents who take advantage of home visitation programs tend to do better in school, and we even see out to 13, 14, 15 years old, depending on the study, they tend not to be in trouble with the law. So these are just wonderful programs. We'd like to talk about what Barbara always refers to as the gold standard, which again, some of the panelists mentioned, which is nurse-family partnership. And that, again, as you can see from the slide, is free. It's voluntary. It's for first-time mothers, although in Los Angeles, they have a few pilots where we can provide this service to mothers who are having multiple pregnancies. They come into the home for 2 years, till the baby's 2 years old, in addition to during pregnancy. And they really do become one of those support people we heard the panelists mention are so important to have in your life. They do require a referral by no later than the 28th week of pregnancy. And so sometimes it's people come to us beyond that point, and we're lucky, like I said, there are multiple other programs in LA that can serve people who are beyond their 28th week of pregnancy or already parenting. For youth under 19 years old, the Adolescent Family Life programs are excellent referrals. We love alphabet soup in this field, so we call those AFLAPs. And we provided you with a website where you can find the local Adolescent Family Life program. I'm seeing in chat, some people are, all the way up in Sacramento. And this is a statewide case management program for young parents. And again, they will serve dads, they will provide counseling, they'll connect you to resources, all different kinds of important things like that. So let's see, I think this is still me, yeah. So, so many of you talked about childcare being an issue. It should not be an issue for anyone in care. Thanks to a bill that was passed as an emergency bill under former Governor Brown and now under Governor Newsom is still around, is the Child Care Bridge Program. And that means that if there's a youth in care who needs childcare, to do those things our panelists were talking about, to go to school, to get to work, they can have subsidized, meaning free childcare. And in addition, through this program, they can even get someone called a navigator who can help them navigate this complicated system, find that provider that is licensed and that they feel comfortable with. If you have aged out of care, but you're receiving CalWorks benefits, right now in California, you can get a year of subsidized care as well. And as we heard, when the world is not shut down, a few schools and colleges have childcare on site, and there are early Head Start programs, a number of other programs that are listed under that Home Visiting LA type website, where you can get access to both subsidized or non-subsidized childcare. Again, let's be honest, with COVID, it's not as seamless as usual, but we don't want to hear that childcare is a barrier to your young family doing what they want to do, what they need to do, and reaching their goals, because in California, those barriers have been removed. And before I pass the line to Barbara, I just want to say that I really appreciate Felicia's graphics and pulling together these themes of the different areas where young parents in care might be struggling and how they intersect. But I want to emphasize that we come to the youth we work with through a strengths-based, resilience-based lens. Our conferences begin with what's working right for you and how can we help that continue. And so although we do identify gaps, barriers, et cetera, we definitely want to acknowledge the resilience that is there, that we heard it from our panelists today, and that our clients all have. So next slide, please, Felicia. And education. We heard a number of our panelists who are older talk about college. So yes, there is tremendous amount of support in our colleges for foster youth, not specific to parenting foster youth, but to foster youth. And if you look at cacollegepathways.org, you can find that office in the area where you live, or you can reach out to anyone on this panel. Sometimes there is limited enrollment and there are other programs you can connect to. But in terms of youth who have not finished high school yet, again, there are many rights that you have, and these extend from enrollment. You have the same right to enrollment that as a non-parenting or non-expecting youth would have. And that means you are allowed to attend your local traditional high school down the street, whether that's virtually or in non-COVID times in person. And if that doesn't feel right, there are schools for teen parents. There are special programs for any youth who doesn't find the traditional setting fits their learning style. And there's even studying independently at home. But the point is, this should be centered by what the youth wants and the youth feels is their best choice for education, and not by people saying you can't do this or nothing else is available. You can always attend school. Those adolescent family life programs can help you. The conferences can help you, and resource specialists like me and Barbara can help you. You also have the right to participate in activities, to be excused to go to doctor's appointments, make up missed work, even to breastfeed at school. So there should be no problem with enrollment. And in addition, if you have trouble with how many credits do I need or what should I be taking, both of our offices and in LA, your attorney's offices can help you look at that so you are in the right education program for your unique circumstances.
Hello again. And I apologize if you hear a dog barking. I have little control over that. Anyway, I'm going to talk to you first about funding and placement. As a lot of you know, placement options vary depending on the age of the youth. We have group homes, supervised independent living placement for non-minor dependents, THP plus foster care for those 18 to 21, and THP plus for 18 to 24-year-olds. I know housing is a huge issue and something that COVID has, like so many injustices, has brought to the forefront of what an issue it is. And both our offices, both the Alliance and Public Counsel, can help with these issues, as hopefully can your social worker, your ILP worker. So, but we know that housing, as I'm echoing what so many of the speakers today talked about, is an issue. Funding and placement. I want to say that one of the things that we can be proud of that LA County did, we, and this was led by advocates, we saw in the conferences we heard from youth that they did get funding for themselves and themselves if they were non-minor dependents, or their caregivers got it if they were not in a SILP. And they also, as I'll talk about, had funding for the baby. However, just because of the way things work in the county, the funding, although it was retroactive, it didn't come for several months. And it's hard to say, you know, okay, baby, don't need diapers, don't need formula, don't need a crib until I get this funding when you're 2 months old. And we were hearing that this was really problematic and that youth were unable to prepare with the necessities for the baby. So we went to the county and we said, like CalWorks, which allows people to start getting funding in their second trimester, we need to give these youth some source of funding so that they can prepare for the baby, buy those diapers, get the car seat, etc. And the county agreed, and youth can now get $415 a month in their 7th, 8th, and 9th month of pregnancy, which has been really helpful. We hear all the time that youth are able to really prepare for the baby. This money goes to them to spend on whatever they need for the baby, regardless of the placement they're in. And this was part of a statewide bill. And like many bills, it got taken out in the negotiations. So LA County right now is the only county in the state that provides this. And we're really proud of that. We're proud of our efforts getting it through and proud of the county for recognizing how important this is. So again, in the 7th, 8th, and 9th month of pregnancy for any youth in foster care, they are entitled to this $415 per month to prepare for the baby. Once the baby is born, there is what's called the infant supplement, which is $900 a month. If the youth is in a SILP, in a supervised independent living placement, that money goes to her along with her SILP payment. If they're in a foster home or a group home, it goes to the caregiver or group home who is supposed to give a portion of that money to the youth to be able to purchase things they need for the baby and learn how to budget. I want to say that one of the advantages of extended foster care, remaining in foster care till you're 21, is that this is significantly more money than CalWORKs that one gets with CalWORKs, which is a funding for pregnant and parenting adults through the Department of Public Social Services. In my opinion, CalWORKs is woefully inadequate, but even though it recently had some increase. But again, one of the advantages is that if you stay in care till 21, you're getting significantly more income to support yourself and your baby, and you're not using up the CalWORKs. CalWORKs is a time-limited benefit. And if you need it, once your case closes, and you haven't yet used any of that funding. So again, the infant supplement is $900 a month, and that is in addition to the money a youth would receive for themselves or a caregiver would receive for a youth. There's also something called the Parenting Support Plan, PSP, which is an effort to encourage youth to have a support person or mentor, somebody that can provide them with some assistance in whatever way the youth feels would be helpful. And the only requirement is that the person be 21 or older and has to go through some sort of criminal background check. And then the youth and that person really decide how that will work. So maybe they'll take them grocery shopping every 2 weeks, or they'll babysit a couple times a month so the youth can have some time for themselves, or they'll be available if the youth has questions. Whatever is appropriate for the youth and the person she designates as her support. And once they do that and come up with a written kind of contract that can be changed as the needs change, the youth would receive an additional $200 a month. This is for youth who are in supervised independent living placements. So it's for the 18 to 21-year-olds. And it really is, again, an effort to encourage youth to have that support, and they will receive that additional $200 a month. The other, I mentioned CalWORKs briefly. CalWORKs is for those youth whose cases have closed and qualify. It's based on your income, or occasionally there are youth who are not yet in a funded placement, and they can get CalWORKs while waiting for DCFS funding to start. One important thing to note is once DCFS funding does start, the CalWORKs needs to be terminated so that they don't aren't hit with an overpayment, because you can't receive CalWORKs and funding from DCFS at the same time.
So Barbara, apparently in our enthusiasm to let them know there is so much available, we have about 2 minutes left to wrap up.
Oh my, okay, we spoke, okay. CalFresh is what used to be called food stamps. You apply online now. If you have any difficulties, our office helps with that. SSI is for youth with disabilities. Again, if you're a DCFS, if you have an open case, the SSI unit at DCFS should help you with that. Our office, the Alliance, also has a SSI team that can help. Next slide, and I will do my racing. I talked about CalFresh. WIC is a program. Again, you have to apply online now. Before COVID, it was the easiest program to get. If you have trouble accessing WIC online, our office can help, but it provides food, formula, and education to pregnant women and children up to 5 years old. It's a really good program. Next. Medi-Cal. Anybody in foster care is entitled to Medi-Cal. There should be no reason why any youth or their baby does not have Medi-Cal. If you had an open case at 18, you have Medi-Cal regardless of your income until age 26. It pays for medical and mental health care. All I can say is if you have any trouble with your Medi-Cal, talk to your social worker or call me, because we can help get it turned back on. There's no reason why one shouldn't have Medi-Cal, and basically there's no reason why anybody outside of foster care shouldn't have Medi-Cal if they're eligible. And there's another wonderful organization called Maternal and Child Health Access, which assists, can assist if you're no longer in foster care with Medi-Cal issues. Next. And just to know one's baby, and this is true whether you're in foster care or not, a baby is covered the month they're born and the entire next month under their mother's Medi-Cal, and then they need to have their own. And you should inform their social worker of the baby's birth immediately, as quick as possible, so that the social worker can initiate the infant supplement and the baby's Medi-Cal. So that's important.
Okay.
And
So as we mentioned, dads are important. They do need support bonding, just like moms. In LA, there's a fabulous program, Project Fatherhood, Bienvenidos, many programs. Reach out to us if you want the father to be connected to these. Next slide. And then probably the biggest area of questions we get is this area of law called family law, with all of these tricky subjects of paternity and custody and visitation. And anyone who has questions about this can reach out to me offline. We'll stick around. There are providers in the area that will help youth navigate these tricky territories. And the last slide, Barbara?
Is developmental milestones. We have on our website at the Alliance a very, I think, handy brochure that you can stick on your refrigerator that just talks about what babies should be doing at different ages. Believe me, no baby does all of it. You know, don't make yourself crazy thinking, oh, my baby isn't doing everything, but it will. The one takeaway is that if your baby wasn't doing any of the things listed, you might want to talk to your doctor. And it also talks about services at regional center if you are concerned that your baby has, needs some additional assistance. And it's there, you can download it from our website. And feel free, maybe Felicia, I think our emails, and it's fine to list my phone number. So since we just speed wrap through so many of these, feel free to call with any questions.
Thank you so much to both of you guys. Yes, we, in the follow-up email, we're gonna list a bunch of links and resources, and we can definitely list your information. So if anyone has any particular questions, they will be able to access you guys pretty easily. So did really want to quickly go through, here's some other resources that are really great. So teenparent.net, it includes info on rights and resources for young parents in California specifically. Teenhealthrights.org also includes some additional information on law and rights for young families. The CDSS website is really great. The Healthy Sexual Development website's really great. And their Know Your Sexual and Reproductive Health Rights brochure, which talks about youth rights, is also really great. And then of course, LA Rep, our website has a ton of resources that you can check out as well. So really quickly wanted to say we do have one more webinar in this specific series coming up. This one is going to be a really, really cool webinar. Not all of the webinars have been very, very cool. This one though is going to be facilitated and hosted by 4 members of our Youth Advisory Board. And we are marketing it to young people in the foster care system. Young people with lived experience in foster care. However, it's going to be open to everybody. And it's kind of nice to hear from young people what they think about self-love and, relationships and those sorts of things. So even if you're not someone who has had lived experience, but you're an advocate, you're someone who works closely with, former foster youth or people in the system currently, you could take a lot from this, hearing from young people who have had that experience and what they think about these things. So feel free to sign up. We will send this registration link in the follow-up email as well. Please send it out to your networks and to all the young people you know as well. And then we do also have a listserv. So if you go to our website, fosterreprohealth.org, and scroll to the bottom, you can type your name in and your information, and then you'll get on our listserv. And then anytime there's an LA Rep update or an event happening or a webinar, you'll get information about that. And then now we are going to leave it up open to questions. So if there are any questions in the chat, I'm going to hand it over to Rebecca to see if anybody had any questions for any of our panelists or our presenters.
Thanks, Felicia. So feel free to type in any questions you may have to direct to folks. So far, I just want to flag that Thomas Lee from Friends LA reached out to let folks know that his organization can connect young people in foster care with mentors, and that will work with both foster youth and their children from kindergarten to high school graduation. 12 plus years no matter what. So you can check out their website, friendsla.org. There also was a flag encouraging folks to take a look at the parenting support plans as another way to get additional funding. And if you've got any questions or comments or additional resources you want to share, you can share it with us now. I don't see anything coming in, but we'll just give you another minute.
I just want to say something. I want to say that I'm very proud that you guys are able to have DCFS to be able to contribute for us from our foster youth, and they're gonna be having a little bit of more additional money, and I'm glad about the other information about CalWorks that they're helping young mothers for them to be able to be prepared when their kids are coming for car seats and stuff like that, because I know it was hard to buy and purchase those stuff because it is pretty expensive, and I'm glad that you guys are making big moves for this, and I think it's gonna help out a lot of young parents. Thank you.
Thank you so much for saying that, Cindy. Rebecca, were there any other questions, or did any of the panelists want to say one last